These public executions, there have been half a dozen so far, show the Nigerian army at its toughest. In fact, the Igbos are living under a military occupation. But though the soldiers are very much in evidence throughout the East Central state, their behaviour has on the whole been good. After a few violent incidents at the end of the war, discipline has been tightened. The army's been of practical use in building bridges, though it could do more to help in the work of reconstruction. Perhaps the military's biggest contribution has been to put money into an economy starved of cash, since all Biafran currency is now useless. It's reckoned that the soldiers spend half of the £19 a month they get locally. That's very welcome, but this is still a victorious Nigerian army in which no Igbo officer who fought for Biafra will be welcome for a long time. That's true of some civil servants as well. Decree 46 makes it very likely that about 100 of them, men like Cyprian Ekwenzi, will not get their jobs back.
Mr. Ekwenzi, I suppose you're a classic example of how are the mighty fallen. You were Director of Information for the federal government and for Biafra, and now here you are selling plastic bottles around the country. What's it been like for you?
Well, I don't regard myself as an example of the mighty fallen, if that's the classification. The real thing is that at the end of the war, everybody started from scratch, and nothing was too menial for anyone to do in order to raise the most difficult commodity to find at the moment, which is money. And it takes a certain amount of courage to be able to do what people do not expect you to do. And I think I've proved the point. I have proved that I can do anything. And many people regard me as an example of the Igbo man who can do anything in any circumstance to fight against any desperate odds.
For the moment, no matter how hard they try to raise themselves from the ruins of defeat, all Igbos are beggars, dependent on federal government money to get things moving again. Is it getting through?
The National Rehabilitation Commission is a bit slow and top-heavy. We are not adequately, in fact, we are not at all represented in this body. And the tendency is for them to be rather parsimonious, you know, in doling out their assistance.
But is this malice or inefficiency?
For your information, only about £3 million has been utilized so far of the 16 million voted by the federal government. Why such a small amount? I can't tell. You've asked whether it's inefficiency or malice. I don't think it is malice. I don't think it is corruption. I think it's just the civil servant's way of looking at things. He has his own way of doing things. He has no sense of urgency at all.
Enugu, the Igbo capital, now has an appalling housing shortage. So many buildings were damaged or destroyed in the war, and there are now 650,000 people living in a town which had a pre-war population only half that size. Any kind of shelter is hard to come by. To some, a derelict vehicle may be home. But the will to survive here is strong. With the overcrowding goes an ant-like energy. All the destruction of life and property is just not as crippling here as it would be in a highly industrialized society. Goods for sale spill out of the market along the railway line. Here is everything a man needs to start life again: clothes, building materials and household goods. And with painful difficulty, the Igbos are finding the money to buy them.
There are still plenty of Nigerians who say that the Igbos are much too clever for anybody's good. That's really the reason they fought them during the war, to teach them a lesson, to show them they could neither expect to dominate Nigeria nor set up a country on their own. There's a Nigerian joke that says that the very word Igbo stands for I before others. Certainly the Igbos are competitive and aggressive. The merest look round the market here tells you that. But these are the very qualities they need to recover from the war. No one who was in Biafra during the fighting can doubt the Igbos' ingenuity, their sheer ability to get things done. The Commissioner for Economic Development here says the Igbos can't really expect to be like the Germans and Japanese, to emerge even more prosperous from the ashes of war. All the same, it could happen. It's already said that the Igbos will reach their pre-war level of economic activity by the end of next year. So though they may be down, the Igbos are definitely not out. It really depends on the help they get from the federal government, how quickly they're able to get back on their feet again. Richard Lindley, News at 10, East Central State, Nigeria.